Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Gyan Bhakti. We are currently studying Mysticism of Ramayana. Commentaries by my Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayananji, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. Currently, we are studying the Ayodhya Kand. We are almost at the conclusion of it, and we were studying the mystical meaning of Bharata's going to the forest to get back Lord Rama and the feelings of a devotee. One further point of mystic importance brought out by Tulsidas ji in Ayodhya Kand is the need of blending Saguna and Nirguna devotion in one's sadhana. This is illustrated in a most interesting way through the roles of Bharat and Lakshmana. At different times in the initial stage of his exile, Rama asked both Lakshmana and Bharata to remain away from him and take care of duties in Ayodhya. Lakshmana absolutely refused, saying that it was impossible for him to leave Rama's side throughout the forest exile. In this behavior, Lakshmana symbolized the spirit of Sagun Bhakti, worshipping God with a personal form. Bharata, on the other hand, ultimately agreed to rule Ayodhya while Rama was away. While doing so, he worshipped Rama intensely, but without having Rama's enchanting form before his eyes. In this behavior, Bharata symbolized the spirit of Nirgun Bhakti, or worshipping God without a personal form. However, in the case of both brothers, their worship was always a blend of Saguna and Nirguna. As Lakshmana followed Rama, he repeatedly showed his awareness of Rama's divine nature and all-pervading presence. When Sita was kidnapped, it was Lakshmana who reminded Rama, "O Rama, why are you grieving? You who are the Lord of all." Similarly, Bharata worshipped Rama from far away without being able to see him, but again and again he turned to Rama's sandals for his sustenance. The difference between Saguna and Nirguna Bhakti is very subtle. When there is moisture and warm air, the moisture exists as vapor and cannot be seen. When the air cools down, the moisture develops into visible snowflakes. The snowflakes are symbolic of Sagun devotion, and the invisible mist is a symbol of Nirguna. Both aspects are necessary for a balanced and healthy spiritual movement, and they are interdependent. Through Saguna Upasana, devout meditation, one's feelings unfold and soars to sublime heights. Through Nirguna Upasana, one's reason shines brighter and brighter. Without Saguna, Nirguna cannot be perfected. One's mind cannot be directed to something that has no attribute at all. It must have something tangible to cling to. Similarly, without Nirguna, Saguna cannot flourish. If a Saguna Bhakta confines his worship to a form, his devotion remains cramped. He must come to understand that the form, no matter how beautiful and inspiring it may be, is only a window to the formless Brahman, the absolute self. So with this we conclude Ayodhya Kand, and we will now start Aranya Kand. Aranya means forest. So the episode is story of Jayanta. One day, while Rama was abiding in the Chitrakuta mountains, he and Sita were relaxing in the forest. Seeing some lovely flowers nearby, Rama wove them into a garland and brought them to Sita. At the time, Jayanta, the son of Indra, was flying overhead in the disguise of a crow, and he saw Rama behaving just like an ordinary human being. Thinking it impossible that Rama could really be an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he came up with a scheme to test Rama. So without warning, he swooped near Sita and bit her toe, drawing blood. The moment Rama saw this, he picked up a grass straw and by reciting a special mantra, charged that straw with the immense power of Brahmastra. That is a weapon presided over by Brahma, the creator. Thus, that little straw became a tremendous force, vomiting smoke and fire like a dragon, and it pursued poor Jayanta relentlessly as he rushed in all directions in hopes of finding refuge. However, no one, not even Shiva and Brahma, could dare give shelter to one who had offended Rama, and they all turned him away. Finally, however, Narada took pity on Jayanta and told him to rush towards Rama and fall at his feet, begging for mercy. Jayanta followed this advice, and Rama was moved to compassion by the sight of the terrified Jayanta. However, he could not withdraw the weapon until it had done some destructive work. So Rama robbed Jayanta of one eye and then let the power of the weapon subside. Besides colorfully portraying the immense power, this is the mystical meaning we are reading, wielded by Rama as a divine incarnation, this story of Jayanta has an interesting implication. Jayanta is the son of Indra, who symbolizes the ego principle in a human being. Jayanta, who has emerged out of egoistic vision, symbolizes mala or gross impurity in human nature. This gross impurity does not recognize the divinity of Rama or the divine basis in human personality, and therefore hinders the development of faith. In one spiritual movement, the first to be hurt by the presence of gross impurity is the intellect, which receives a nasty bite whenever mala is clouding the mind. Mala means impurities. Seeing that the intellect cannot bear the presence of this gross mental impurity, the spirit discharges immense power against it. This impurity then runs in all directions, so to speak, trying to hide in the depths of the unconscious. But even there, the blazing power of the spirit pursues it in the form of inquiry, reflection, and meditation. Finally, the impurity in human personality comes out in the open and surrenders to the spirit. Once the impurity becomes subservient to the spiritual process, one of its eyes has been taken away. In other words, there develops a one-pointed movement in the human mind towards the development of Sattva or purity. The distraction that was there before, represented by the two eyes, is removed, and the impurities in the mind undergo an intense period of sublimation. So this is a journey of a spiritual aspirant or sadhaka. Let's move to the episode of sage Atri and Anasuya. After abiding for some time in Chitrakoot, Rama realized that his residence had become too well known and it was necessary to move deeper into the forest in order to secure greater solitude and anonymity during the exile. As Rama, Lakshmana and Sita were passing through the forests, they met sage Atri and his wife Ansuya. Sage Atri offered prayers to Rama, and Anasuya, who is well known for her purity and devotion to her husband, gave blessings and teachings to Sita about the virtue of marital fidelity. She then arrayed Sita in a special heavenly robe and ornaments which had the power to grow brighter and more beautiful day by day. This portion of Aranyakand, in which Rama meets with sage Atri as well as other sages, represents a stage of increasing sattva or good association, which leads to the removal of gross and subtle impurities of the mind. The cloth given to Sita by Ansuya mystically implies the development of divine love, which increases in novelty and beauty day by day. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Om Tat Sat.